decision-making analysis in mining. Louis has been involved in the development of projects in the face of uncertainty through the application of quantitative risk analysis, metal price forecasting, gee, I hope he's got a good crystal ball, and applied real option analysis in Australia, Papua New Guinea, Russia, Canada, Chile and Peru. Louis got a doctorate in minerals economics and finance from the Queensland University of Technology. So he's probably one of those blokes that the ads are about on TV and where they say, you know, do the QUT thing for the real world. There you go. Right, without further ado, Louis Martinez.
Good afternoon. My name is Luis Martinez. I am a mining engineer originated from Peru, but living in Brisbane for a long time. I got 2 masters in mine planning, one with long-term, short-term integration, and the other one for geostatistics in mine planning, and the doctorate in economics. So what I would like to talk to you about, and I'm very happy for this, is about, as the title says, quantifying, assessing, and managing uncertainty. I will go a little bit farther than risk. I will talk about uncertainty in mine planning. Just want to ask you to bear with me. I just arrived yesterday midday from overseas in South America. Sometimes my Spanish accent is too strong, so it may confuse a little bit. Or sometimes I used to speak too fast. So please, if you notice that, let me know. I will be happy if you have questions or something to clarify. So having said that, let's start with an initial statement. We have here the whole morning very interesting talks about risk. That's what we do, that's what I do. I am a passionate engineer, you can call it, about risk and uncertainty in mine planning. So how can we put all this risk, all this uncertainty within the mine planning? What is the effect of that? So, first things I need to mention is no one can predict the future with 100% certainty. If someone won the lottery, that's not even lucky. I consider it as an anomaly. But the future cannot be predicted with 100% certainty, but doesn't mean that we cannot do something about that. How is what I will try to explain today. If you agree or disagree with some of my slides, it's okay. I will be happy to answer any questions at the discussion. But normally what we see is that when we do a project evaluation, as is the topic here, we are focusing, and I am focusing here in the long term. I am not focusing in the short term or middle term. We are talking in project evaluation for the long term. So we are talking about the life of mine for many years. We know that most of these projects, either mining or petroleum or whatever project, is very complex because the different variables that intervene into the process. Economic variables, as we saw, geotechnical, geological, financial, and many other ones that some of them, because lack of data, are uncertain for us. Because we are watching the future. We are not watching the past, we are watching the future, and data for the future is not available today. And today, we need to make a decision. How much the value of the project? So that is why we see that many people choose to work with one value, averages, and very few with distributions. The main reason for that is easier to work with averages. Well, easier, but it's very complex as well. So imagine with distributions. And most of this is because we sometimes have the lack of knowledge about the difference between working or making decisions with averages based on single values or the distribution. As you see in the upper part here, I don't know if you can see the pointer, but we are faced towards a random variable or distribution. What we used to do is we take the average and we use that average into our mine process and we obtain a value on the other side. And because we see that the average input, the other side is also an average. That would be true if our function f, or in this case our mine planning process, would be linear, but it's not, it's non-linear. So what we need to do is basically use the distribution, input all the values, and at the end, averages. And you will see that that averages is different than the previous function from the average unit. That is what we call Jensen's inequality. I will not talk about that. I hate mathematics when I was at university, at school, so I will not put one equation on this, maybe one, but just as an example. This is what we call the flow of averages in mine planning, or mine project evaluation. And it's like this guy, that averages are dynamics. Averages high values, and low values is the average. As this guy tried to cross the river and he read the ad saying, on depth, average depth, 3 feet, so he has gold. But doesn't mean that there is a huge hole, very deep hole, that he will fall down and die. It's the same in the mine project. When we start today looking at the future, on averages, we have many variables, but we need to take care. That's on averages. We need to be aware of the risks, which is the topic of this talk, and also the potential, because the potential is there. We shouldn't forget about it. So, current downturn has shown us that working with averages is a bit dangerous. Actually, this current downturn economic and the previous one has been brought consequences for many companies. And it's because playing with averages is kind of playing dice. I will ask the question, if we have prices, grades, cost, environment, recovery, all those average value, and we are saying that all those will happen every year for 20 or 30 years of the life of mine, what should be the probability of that? I don't know. But for sure, it's less than 100%. So, we know there is uncertainty. Question is, what can we do for that? Can we protect? We saw in the morning different techniques for different fields, geomechanics, geology, finance, management. So, how can we bring all that together, as the previous speaker for geomechanics said, to the mine planning? The mine planning is the bottleneck. Everything should pass through the mine planning. So we can end with our cash flow in the other side. How can we do that? Well, one technique that we normally use for doing that is the Monte Carlo simulation. And what is the Monte Carlo simulation? Well, let me explain to you in an easy way. Can you hear me? So if you want to paint your house in a look high wall, you bring the ladder. You never put the ladder and climb. What you do is you put the ladder and you start shaking it, and the ladder gets stable, and then climb. Well, that's Monte Carlo. Monte Carlo is shaking, bringing shocks to your process to see the stability, and when you believe that it's stable, go ahead. That's the philosophy of Monte Carlo. So why not to use it in mining? Let's check a little bit our project. We have our schedule that we develop with averages, with our best averages, because it's all the information we have. Good. But why not shocking with a lot of bombs from infrastructure uncertainty, economic financial uncertainty, geological or geomechanical uncertainty, and all the variables that we want, and shake the project. See the distribution of the value at the end, and see if it's stable or not. Or identify, and that is the objective of doing this, is identify risky areas that we should be aware of, and also good potential areas where we can get more money. The objective is maximize the value today. Remember, we are looking to the future. It is simple to tell, but actually, it's a bit more into this, a little bit more involved. We normally use softwares like, I don't want to mention, but someone mentioned Crystal Ball like this, it's good. But there are many limitations there. That is what I call risk analysis on the project. On means at the end. What we try to do is in the project. How can we put that in the project? As in geomechanics, if I vary my slope angle in the project, and I put the uncertainty, what is going to be the answer of the last P design? Will it fall down? Will it not? Will it be stable? So we have to test our project. And this is a general framework where you can have your resource model, your schedule, your engineering design, your economic analysis, pass through the engine, the uncertainties, and the output of key indicators will be of uncertainties, including the project NPV, where you can measure all the statistics that you want, averages, median, mode, interval of confidence, but that is information for us. And just know that at the end, you can do this analysis year by year. It's kind of taking an X-ray of your project. Some of the limitation for this is that current techniques to evaluate projects based on the NPV and IRR, or the discounted cash flow, do not allow us to do that, because they work with averages. Of course, they have the discount rate, which, by the way, is constant over time, or some of them can vary, just to punish for risk. So the discount rate, punish the cash flow over time. So any project who has a 10 years life of mine, if you analyze the cash flow, maybe the first 10 years are going to be useful for us, because after that, the cash flow discounted to today is very little. However, there are things over there that we need to realize. So there are techniques to do this. We at our company do this. This is our specialty, but it's not common, because as we have here before, we need a specialist for this. Especially when someone's talking about risk, we are talking about ethics in doing that. I can say tomorrow if there is an 80% probability will rain. Who can prove it me wrong until tomorrow? No one. Could be 80, could be 30, could be 50. How can we validate that? Well, the only way to validate is by showing the process. How do you arrive to a value of 80%? So this is a whole process, and what I want to show you after, because time, is just some examples of that. Let's talk about, for example, geological uncertainty. We know about geological uncertainty. We know that we bring our block models from drill holes. Drill holes are space. They are not 1 meter space or 1 centimeter space. They are space for 20, 50, 100 meters depending on the grid. Based on that, we make some interpolation. This ingredient, we interpolate, and we obtain our block model, which becomes for us kind of the averages. That block model goes to a bit optimizer, and you end up with your schedule. Based on that schedule, what I am showing you below is actually the result from a mine we did, where you can see that the black line is showing you the average grade per each production period. As you can see, starting very high grades and start lowering down to the life of mine. Then you have the plus minus 10% that we normally do as traditional way to create an interval of confidence. And we accept that. Our result is one value NPV. We can put exactly plus minus 10%. But we cannot do much about it. We can analyze, we can see, but if we want to quantify the uncertainty of the geological grade, what we do is we do simulations. And we know about conditional simulation. And the point here is not to forecast. We don't know which one is true. It's just to see the shocks. Each simulation is a shock. It's showing the variability that is going to hit your schedule. Can you see? Every image will hit your schedule. And we will measure what is happening on the other side. And look at this. In the other side, you can see the same grade profile year by year, but now you have a band. And that band is the consequence, or is the effect, quantified, of the grade uncertainty in your project. From that band, you can measure risk and potential to go above or below my expected value, or what I want. Here I would like to highlight that the way of transmitting information when using uncertainty is also very important. Sometimes this chart is not so explicit, so there are other ways. For example, if we do this, I am showing you the same chart, but now I am showing you the errors above and below the base case. So the base case is my line in black, and you can see just the deviations year by year, and you can measure that it is not plus minus 10% linear, it varies. That is a more realistic way, and you can analyze year by year where you have more risk to go above or below your expected value, and do your analysis again. We have the technology, the statistics. We can have that into our schedule. Now, I would like to focus in another economic variable that's very important. Prices. We know that prices are not controllable, and we have here today that we need to control, yes, but to control something, we need to have a perception of something. If we don't know, we cannot do much. So, a quantitative risk analysis will give you that perception, will tell you, look, hey, watch out. Take care over there. So, I will not argue which techniques to use in metal price, that's another discussion. But in a recent paper I wrote down with James McGiving and Sean, they are here, I guess. We make a little survey. Some people like consensus, other people like forwards. Spot prices are very little, but in fact, it's just the way how to use it in your cash flow. But what we do is the same that we do with grade. We simulate not one price, but many prices, keeping your base case. And we shop. We grab that and we bump your production schedule and we obtain the cash flow resulting. And now your distribution will be, your read and observe distribution. Again, we are not forecasting. Someone asked me, which price will you use? I don't know. Actually, we don't know. Maybe some of these prices do not capture something in year 10. But it's better than use just one price. Give us more information. And that's what we are looking for, information, to make decisions today. The other part is cost. How much is going to cost me? The cost will vary as well. So let's repeat the process. Can you see? I am using my schedule here, my production, and I am just bombing it with a lot of shocks coming from different variables. And I am watching the results. What is the result? Is it stable or not stable? Where do I need to focus? That's where our engineers have to go and focus in those areas. Because now we have a perception, or now we have identified risky areas. And also there are good areas with a lot of great potential that we also need to take care of in case prices goes up. Once we have done risk analysis, we have quantified, we have assessed and quantified risk. The logic next question is, okay, what do we do now? Like the real estate over there, you know, one of the beautiful features of the house is that it is in a beautiful valley with a river next to it, but you can see a little boat at the top in case the river goes bigger and flooded everything. Risk analysis, but solution. So, how do we protect from uncertainty? What can we do? Well, here is where the experience of the consultants comes towards all the mine planners, because they have experience, so they need to choose the best strategies and options to mitigate risk and to capture potential. But doesn't mean that we shouldn't be doing this with optimal processes, optimization, because sometimes what our eyes see are not correct. Let me give you a little example. Can you see the chart next? Well, that is from the beginning to the end of the mine, year 1, year 2, year 3, and every node is one point in the year, and every connection is one path that you can follow. If I ask you the question, what should be the path that we should follow to maximize the value, everyone will start going from the front. Okay, let's do it. Let's go for the front. 2, 3, I will grab 4 because it's maximum. So everyone maximize value in year 1. What we normally do. After that, we will go to G, because it's 4, we maximize value from G to I and I to J. So if you see the NPV below, if we discount it, today the project value is 11.9 million, which we would believe is maximum. Our eyes tell us that. But if we apply an optimization process like dynamic programming, and we come from the back, maximizing as well, very simple. We go from J to I to E, EV, and look, from B to A, year 1, value 2 is the minimum actually. But if you calculate the NPV from year 1 to 744 is 13.3. So not always maximizing year 1 will maximize your NPV. Our eyes say that, but the optimization process tell us something different. And here with experience comes. Now it can support something with numbers. Now imagine these are uncertain. All these values are uncertain. These are static. Now imagine all have distributions. How can we deal with them? Here I would like to show or talk about real options, because that is an advanced process that one of the technologies or methodologies to do that is dynamic programmable with uncertainty, and this is the equation I saw you will mention. It uses the Bellman's equation, which is dynamic but in the face of uncertainty. And we do the same process, just with distributions. The objective, maximize your value today based on decisions that you can make through time. Remember, a mine is a dynamic process. Every year we can make decisions. But remember, we are also today. We are not in operation yet. So the process is simple. This is another paper I wrote with James McGibbon, a little quick steps. Always use your base case. Why? Because it's our reference point. We have to have the base case. Then we identify uncertainties, we combine them, then we use strategies and options. We input into the process, and you end up with something that we call the expanded NPV. And the expanded NPV is just your base case NPV plus whatever value you have brought, because your strategies and options. Any strategy will add value. You will put it there. So let me give you a little example for that. I don't know if I'm good on time, but it's a little real case for a small silver mine where the owners pay 48 million as capex. It costs 48 million. Their production cost is $7.5 per ounce per silver. The life of mine is 5 years. They gave me the production line. The annual risk adjusted, the discount rate they use is 10%. And also they have an option to not start project today but next year. But for that they need to pay $1 million to the government. They have the option. They said, look, the salvage value means when you close, you put the remediations, and so everything is break even, zero, to make it simple. And they gave me the risk-free discount rate 4%, but we will not use it here, but it's always good for information. So they asked me a question. First question they asked, is this a good investment? Of course. Second question, should we start now or wait next year to start the project? Third question, what about the capex? What should be our capex? Should we minimize our capex to be indifferent to start this year?